Hi guys, so what I wanted to do in this video is just give you an update of how the collection is lasting. So I've owned some of these pieces for 12 years or more, and I just wanted to give you an update on how they're faring, if I've had any problems over the years. But before I do that, I just want to show you something. So this is a toy from the 1970s. It's mine, and this would have cost probably £13, £14 if that back in the day, and its sole purpose was to be played with. It's made from plastic, it's made from metal, it's painted, it's got rubber tracks, and I would play in the street, I would play in the garden, I would take this around friends' houses and play with this. I would dig up dirt and gravel in the shovel at the back here, and it's absolutely fine. And as I say, rubber, yes. A collector's worst nightmare and concern is rubber. And this, despite being 40 years old, is perfectly pliable. It served its purpose. For that small amount of money, it's still going strong today, and I'm sure it's still good for another 30 or 40 years yet. Okay. Now, a collection is different, because what we do then is we spend hundreds of pounds or thousands of pounds, and we get the boxes, and when we get the boxes we open them carefully, we unwrap them, and then we strategically place them on a shelf or in a cabinet. As you can see, a lot of mine in this collection, I've got them in cabinets that you can see in the back there. And this room has blinds, and the blinds are permanently closed, and the door is closed. I'm probably the only person who comes into this room, so it has very, very little traffic. So after we've placed our collections on the shelf, they have one task to do. Like the toy I've just shown you, its task was to be played with. All these have to do is the easiest thing in the world, is just to sit there and look pretty. Nothing else. That's all they have to do. So, as I mentioned, the one thing that collectors are a little bit nervous about are rubber. So some collectibles have elements of rubber on them, and as you can see on this lightsaber, I've got a textured rubber grip that goes all the way around. Now on this, I've noticed over the years that the bottom part of the grip came away from the lightsaber, and that's because of shrinkage. And this is the problem with rubber or foam rubber or latex type materials. They start to dry out and shrink. So I had to glue these back, and not a big deal really. I glued them back and everything's fine. And the rubber itself is in pretty good shape at the moment. But I know that this rubber eventually is going to start to shrink more, and it might be that at a certain point I may have to replace the rubber. But on the whole, it's not doing too bad. I've also got the Darth Maul, and I've got these rubber areas across the lightsaber, and in fact all of these are cracking. All of these are cracking. In fact, when I actually purchased this, going back about 6 years ago, there were signs of cracking on there back then, and there are signs of cracking. I don't think it's got majorly worse at the moment, but again, rubber can be a nightmare. It really can. But obviously, I appreciate that it also depends on the climate that you live in. Now, it's not too bad in the UK. We've got a fairly moderate climate here in the UK, and but if you live in warmer climates and you've got air conditioning can cause chaos with things like rubber and foam rubbers and things like that. So here in the UK, it's not too bad. Now, this for me is not a major issue at all really, because all these are just rubber O-rings. So I can go onto eBay and order some of these for just a couple of pounds. So it's not a big deal. And then I used to own the, just before I show you some other things, I used to own the Hot Toys Ed209 from Robocop. It was the first edition, not the new one that came out a few years ago. And most collectors will probably remember that it had the foam rubber dome on top of there, and of course a lot of collectors were having problems with that. And again, I think it was more maybe in the warmer climates, maybe air conditioned climates, where it was shrinking and cracking and perishing quite badly. I had mine on display for probably a couple of years, and it seemed fairly fine. I didn't have any major issues with it, and then I boxed it up, and it was in storage for about two or 3 years, and then eventually I actually sold that piece. But before I sold it, I did check the dome, and I could see that the rubber dome, foam dome, had shrunk a little bit and come away from the edges. It was like the actual rubber was sat into a recess, and it had just slightly come away from the sides because it was shrinking. So I got some glue and glued it back to the sides, and I sold that. But it wasn't in bad shape, to be fair. There wasn't any major problems with mine. Something that's more of a concern with mine, it was one of my early videos of the endoskull. Now I've owned this for probably 9 years or so, and it didn't cost me a lot. But as you can see, you might be able to see just there's a bubble on the chin, and that bubble has got progressively worse over time. It didn't used to be like that. I haven't had that from new. It was originally perfect, but in fact you can push it and it just pops back out. Now okay, it didn't cost a huge amount. It cost about £280, but even so, I don't think it should be doing that. It has a very simple task in life, and I don't believe that it should be doing that. And it's not an easy fix. It's not as if I can sand that back and blend it back in, because it's chrome paint, and chrome paint is not easy to blend in. So the only way I could cure that is to probably just strip the whole thing and get it re-chromed again, which I'm not going to do, because it's not an expensive piece and it's not particularly valuable anyway. So something I'm a little bit disappointed about is that one, really. And then the other thing I've noticed, which probably not really a long-term issue, but I noticed that some of my collectibles have got, it's almost like shrinkage. Let me see if I can show you. Don't know whether you can see, but in the corner there, you've got like a lighter section, and it's where the paint, there is actually a hairline crack in the paint, and I think it's just shrinkage basically, and where the resin or bust itself, obviously the resin underneath is drying out at a different rate as the paint, and you sometimes get hairline cracks in them. On the Predalien bust, you might be able to see that white line that runs from one side to the next, and that is a crack in the paint. Now every single Predalien I've seen, they've all had that. Every single one has had that crack in the paint going across. I've had mine from new, and to be fair, it's not got any worse, and it didn't really concern me. Let me just get framed. It didn't really concern me, otherwise I would have sent it back. But even so, I mean, it shouldn't be like this, because these are quite expensive collectibles. The other things I've had issues with, I mean, I've got the Iron Man here, which I was never keen on the paint finish on this, but I know that some collectors later on had issues with the base, in that the paint started to flake on the base. Thankfully mine's okay, so I haven't got any issues with that. Is there anything else? Not really. I think the rest of my collection is holding up pretty well. My major one really is the endo bust, but apart from that, I mean, things like the prop replicas from Master Replicas, most of those are metal anyway, so you're not really going to have any major issues with those. it really is those statues or replicas where they have rubber in, and those are the only ones where I have more concerns with. But on the whole, I think the collection is holding up pretty well. It'd be interesting to know if you've had any issues with any of your collection, and if you have, maybe drop a message in the comments section and let me know what problems that you've had. So that's it, guys. I hope you found this video interesting, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Cheers, guys.